like pens or light bulbs or cleaning material, and it takes a long time for it to get approved, the process starts all over again, which means they don't have access to basic things that they need: toilet paper, pens, books. Um, this is completely unacceptable, and I really think that is why you have to decentralize supply chain from Pretoria to provinces so that they can cut the red tape. If they need a tire, and that is one of the reasons why we have so many vehicles standing, because it's small parts. They need a tire, they need a mirror on the side, something like that. But it takes months for them to have this approved through the supply chain management system. Why can't we just make sure that we devolve these powers to provinces? It's very unnecessary. I want to use an example of the K9 unit that we visited. And I must say, we were pleasantly surprised when we visited the K9 unit. But they can't purchase dogs. They have 97. You have place for 1,001 dogs. They can't purchase dogs. There's 97 because the BEEE regulations make it so difficult for suppliers to supply dogs to the South African Police Service. So you would rather, instead of supporting a South African company, you would go and look overseas and try and purchase a dog from overseas to come to South Africa, which costs 3 times the amount. That doesn't make good business practice. It doesn't make financial sense at all. I cannot understand why we would do that. And I mean, if I look at something that I think seriously has to be addressed, is the police training colleges. If we don't fix our foundation phase, it's like going to school and looking at children in grade 1 and grade R. And we don't fix our foundation phase, they're going to get to grade 4 like they are now, and they can't read and write for meaning. And that's exactly what's happening in our police training colleges, because our police training colleges are not equipped to ensure that we're giving the correct caliber training to these recruits. We taking in 5,500 new police officers yearly, but our attrition rate and the rate at which people are leaving is actually higher. But again, I want to use a simple example. I was at a police station to assist somebody, and I must say they were very good after I was there, and they really did assist me. But to complete a docket took almost 2 hours. And it's because they're not trained properly. They don't know how to complete the paperwork, and that comes from your police training colleges. It can never be that we can take an affidavit or a statement from somebody, and because we can't translate it properly because the dockets have to be written in English for court purposes, we lose what's happening in the translation, and it takes 2 hours to help one person. I mean, that's 2 hours that could be spent on something else. So our systems have to definitely improve. And then, Minister, you yourself now said that the reason why General Mkhwanazi and General Mosekile are going to work together is to diversify and disseminate responsibilities. And I think that's good. But honestly speaking, we're now at that point in South Africa where we have to expand policing powers to provinces that are capable to do it. Clearly, holding all the power in Pretoria is not helping us anymore. It is not assisting anybody. It is not assisting South Africans, and it is something that I think we have to address with urgency to make sure that we can necessitate and capacitate the SAPS in provinces so that they can run I want to say a Rolls-Royce performance in every province instead of having a broken down Golf, if it makes sense, just so that we can improve on what we're doing. Because if we don't change these things, nothing is going to change. And my last question, Chair, is just on the limited integration in the criminal justice system. There's no shared performance indicators and accountability mechanisms that exist across the SAPS, the NPA, justice and correctional services. And who is going to be held responsible when cases collapse along these lines in this chain? Because we see it almost on a daily basis. The police arrest somebody, in 2 days' time, they're out on the street again. And that is making your work more difficult, and it is making South Africa less safe. So can we please just have clarity on that? Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Schikkerling. Any of the other members? The Honourable Director, you can start, and then Honourable James.
Thank you, Chair. When the minister was responding, he raised a serious aspect with regard to intergovernmental relations, which seems to be a challenge in the justice cluster. So is there any specific mechanism which can be put in place in an administrative level in order to address that matter of the intergovernmental relations within the justice cluster? And secondly, Chair, on the issue of extortion, I've heard that the department has established both provincial and national call center. And I would also want to check on the side of the department, is it value for money? Is it bearing positive result? If we can also get clarity on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable James.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to go back to crime prevention. Now, we cannot have, what concerns me, General Mosekile, is we cannot have a budget of 47 million when it comes to protecting women and children and there's no enforcement, I think, like the Minister said. I understand earlier on when you referenced Section 10 of the Children's Act in terms of whose responsibility it is to act where children are in direct danger. We also know that there's a national instruction basically for SAPS that allows SAPS to actually respond to these cases, especially when it is after hours when you don't have social workers. Now, I'm also saying we cannot basically shift and I don't want to say blame shift. We cannot look at and every time we reference and we mention children, we say, no, this is the responsibility of the Department of Education, or this is the responsibility of DSD, particularly where we know that we have social crime prevention and particularly where we know where children are in spaces of risk. We need to ensure, number one, the priority as per the Children's Act, that we take those children to a place of safety. Now, you asked earlier on, we cannot just remove. Removing is the last thing. It's so traumatic. I've been on scene with quite a few of these cases, and that's the absolute last thing that we want to do. But as things stand right now on the Western Cape with the high levels of drug abuse and gangsterism, children are abandoned and children are at risk. Children are sleeping outside, they're going without food, they're being abused, sexually violated. Every day I'm getting hundreds, dozens of cases of children being sexually abused, going without food, are going to these homes. So I'm saying to you, at any given point, we need to ensure that our police stations, our victim-friendly rooms are adequately equipped to absorb these children. And at any given point, whether I go to SAPS at 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock, because sometimes in these drug and gang infested areas, Minister, your social workers cannot just enter even without SAPS on their own because of the risk. So this is something which, and even when we do have removals, Minister, you don't even have vehicles. Your social crime prevention is mandated to respond to such cases to ensure that that child, that minor does not get into a van but into a vehicle. There are many times when we cannot remove because SAPS does not have the resources. That's the reality, and this is what I'm trying to say. So we cannot say that when a child is found loitering on a street corner, Western Cape, a social worker can just pick that child up. This is why we have social crime prevention. This is why we have the vehicles to actually stop, because when that child is standing on the street corner, that child is at risk of being raped, being murdered, being abducted. It is the responsibility, the primary responsibility of SAPS to ensure that child's safety, to load that child in the vehicle, take that child to the victim-friendly room, track the parents, bring the parents in, get the social worker, and the social worker will then deal with the case further. So that is a must that we have to do. If we are addressing gangsterism on the Cape Flats, we cannot wait for that child to get into a pelapos or into the gang before we go and rescue that child. It is our responsibility, social crime prevention, to act to ensure that that child is safe. And then basically we notify DSD and we have all of those social workers on standby. I must say the social workers on the Western Cape are quite effective. They have been responding adequately. But the thing is, with our SAPS members, where all of these children are at risk and in these gangs right now, we find that SAPS members aren't even aware. And I appreciate MP's question on, don't you think it's time that some of our members gets back to school? They are not even familiar with the process in terms of what forms to have at the police station. So they don't know about the Form 22, the Form 36, how to do that. And it is needed in the Western Cape. So if we are saying we are allocating a budget of 47 million to address vulnerable women and children and crime prevention. We must ensure that we have the capacity, that people are educated and empowered to actually ensure that we have value for money when it comes to the spend of 47 million. So we cannot approve a budget where there's loopholes. So this is what I'm saying when it comes to, we have to, and I'm not going to back down on this, we have to act where we see children are at risk. No more children loitering, no more children, when children are meant to be in school, that is a violation of the children's rights. And SAPS is meant to act and be first responded to that child that is vulnerable. Then the second question I just want to ask, the priority, and you're right, Minister, we agree with all those priorities, it is needed. We have two programs, we have Shanela and we have the SANDF deployment. Now, I don't understand when we say, with Shanele, we have weekly monitoring, which is awesome. Here we have a program that has been mentioned that stems from the SONA, from the president, the SANDF deployment, and 2 months in, we're saying we haven't monitored. Why? I would have liked to think that the same urgency is assigned here with this program. Shanele gets monitored weekly. SANDF 2 months and we haven't monitored.
1 minute.
We don't have an analysis when it comes to that. Thank you. So the comparison, what's the difference? Shanele, we just heard that all departments are present. They're participating. With SANDF, the minister says we cannot instruct other departments. So I'm not sure where's the difference here. Please help me understand. And then last, General Sentimulu, you spoke about the e-docket pilot. Thank you so much for this. We have been asking for this for the longest time ever. But I just want to know that we've had this program rolled out before. There was a service, if my memory, I just didn't have enough time to do the research now. There was a service provider appointed not so long ago, and monies was paid actually for this e-docket program. What happened? There was no value for money. I believe that matter is in court. Have we recovered the money spent for that program? What is the status of that? Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable James. Any of the other members? I'll come back to you again if need be. General Dimpani, can I hand over to you for coordination? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Let me start with the lifestyle audits just to give comfort. SSA is only responsible to deal with the senior managers. When you look at this slide, Honorable Member, on Program 1, we do have indicators there that talks to our own internal work in terms of other members. So we are responsible for vetting and lifestyle audits of other members. SSA is concentrating on the project that is prioritizing senior managers. So we do have indicators on Program 1 that talks to all other levels in this particular regard. There is an issue on ethics and PFMA training senior managers. These are the issues that Minister spoke about, the reset. As we put this on the table, members, what are the issues that we need to be concentrating on in terms of capacity at all levels? Where do we find ourselves lacking? So we will be concentrating in terms of all these other issues, collaborating, of course, with other institutions in terms of dealing with the gaps that we would have identified. To this end, the National Commissioner is planning for the induction of the newly appointed provincial commissioners, because senior managers are responsible to ensure that they lead their teams. There's ethical conduct, there is resource management, and there's knowledge in terms of this resource management. So there is a program that our training is also putting together, that each and every senior manager, whether it be a provincial commissioner, divisional commissioner who's appointed, there is an induction. And we will be collaborating with the relevant offices, such as your AGSA, such as all these institutions, to assist us, that we subject those that would have been newly appointed to an induction, and these areas are prioritized. Issues of ethics, issues of financial management and resource management. We do have our ethics committees, and we subject to this end, senior managers who are responsible for that ethics committee. We have enrolled them with the Ethics Institute. So there are programs that are currently taking place
Myself, I'm a certified ethics officer. I've undergone a training. The ethics committee chairperson is a certified ethics officer. So we undergo those particular issues and we want to roll this over in terms of collaborating with those institutions. Chair. So these are the areas that we are concentrating on, and we believe that with the efforts in time, we will be able to capture everyone. Issues of ethical conduct is non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable at this point in time. If we find you to have conduct yourself unethically, we will deal with you. So those are the issues that we are currently concentrating on, Chair. In terms of issues of tools of trade, we can give this committee comfort that the provincial commissioners are appointed in terms of the constitution and they're responsible to run their provinces and they're responsible to manage resources. There are issues that are devolved to the provincial commissioners. As I indicated, we are identifying inefficiencies, we are identifying in leadership inadequacies at some levels. And those are the things that we are focusing on to deal with issues of accountability. If we give money to the provincial commissioner, we expect to see the basic tools of trade procured and with the speed to ensure that we do have tools of trade. So we have identified the root causes of the problems that are plaguing us. However, we do note all these issues that the members are putting on the table. Those are the issues as and when we deal with accountability, as I indicated, and monitoring, we will be improving in relation to these particular issues. The monitoring of the SNDF, that is a priority, Honorable Member. I spoke about it yesterday in the very same meeting. So General Musikidi and the team have been required to then put together so that together with Chanela and this particular project, we monitor it and we are able to can identify it, so not to monitor. So they are will be producing reports, and I believe soon when those reports are required by portfolio committee, those reports will be produced in this particular regard. I believe General Musikidi will touch on, we have had the issues of prioritizing of issues that relates to protection of children. General Musikidi will respond to those, but we can give this committee an assurance that the vulnerable groups, the issues of GBVF, this is on top of our priority. We do have our social crime prevention units across the country that are also resourced to deal with these particular issues. But General Musikidi will expand, or if there's a need for her to also clarify on the questions of Honorable James, she will come in. I don't want to waste a bit of time. And General Mavunda on the e-docket, what has transpired in terms of this particular project, she can touch on that. And lastly, on training, are our police training colleges equipped and producing the quality of police men and women that we require? General Zulu will touch a bit on this and expand on the training of the detectives. Perhaps in that order, before we hand over back to the minister to wrap up on other issues that we might have left out, I will request General Musikidi, General Mavunda, and General Zulu on the training colleges. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you once more, Chair. Very quickly, Chairperson, if words came out wrongly in terms of the monitoring of the operations, I think as the acting is also reiterating, Honorable James, the impact assessment, it's the broader assessment that you will weigh, but I was able to reflect on the numbers because of that monitoring, because we look at every week how our operations were undertaken and what are the challenges, which other areas we need to take our resources to, which areas we need to change in terms of the numbers. It's because of that assessment and analysis of the weekly. I think the next question of how do we distinguish between Operation Prosper and Operation Chanela. Chanela, it's a holistic crime prevention approach that relates to the priorities of the provincial commissioner, of the district commissioner, in the whole province, the whole country. But when you look at Prosper, we have identified the flashpoints. We have hotspots provinces, number one. Within the hotspots provinces, out of the number prioritized, certain police stations that are a high crime gang station, so that we implement that has been communicated on the SONA in addressing illegal mining at the illegal mining provinces for Eastern Cape and Gauteng. And Gauteng, you will also have both illegal mining and the gangs. So the distinction between these two is that where we deploy, much as there will be the Operation Chanela deployment in any other area where there is a flashpoint on certain dimension or certain commodity that we want to address, that is where Operation Prosper is. But when we look at the holistic overview of the week's operations, we look at everything. So all these reports will come, but then what you requested earlier is to segregate your overall assessment of the province and what Prosper is doing. So you look at only these stations that are 17 priority stations in the Western Cape. I'm just making an example, but elsewhere in the country where we have identified particular police stations that are flashpoints in terms of what we want to do. Northwest, we look at Bapong areas, Rustenburg, and so forth. So we look at what impact is there in that particular space. And I know that it might look as if it's 2 months, but we came to the portfolio committee and presented that we have breakdown of how this deployment will happen. The first month, it's mobilization of resources. We're talking 2 different departments where SANDF will mobilize, do the collapse, do the budgeting, training, or the joint training, which we presented, Chairperson, that we want these troops and operatives, when they go to the ground, to understand each other's role and what is it that will happen, including, because when SANDF is deployed, they are with SAPS, they are deployed with powers. Which powers are these that we are giving to the SANDF to be able to operate? So it happened in phases where you mobilize. After mobilization, it was the training. After training, then we disseminated this operation and which areas. I think where you have been with them meeting and greeting, it was the scanning process of the operatives. But I think when they operate, they work on the intelligence that was provided and they will go to specific areas to do so. So I want to apologize if it came as if on a weekly basis we are not monitoring what the operations are, because if we wait for a month, we might not know what are the challenges that are happening on a daily basis. For an example, we now know what to communicate with our counterparts. I've been briefing the acting national commissioner in terms of other areas where we have deployment, where we need to tweak and change, where we need to look at other type of resources that we require, because the ones that we are having might have shortcomings. On the issues of the children, Honorable Member, you are right. We have got the responsibility. I reiterated on the issues of Section 28 that we do have mandate, we do have responsibility to save, to protect children, irrespective of the time of the day, where, who, and how. However, my reiteration was over and above your face a response that you will see that this child needs protection. There are other processes that we must also undertake collaboratively. I also spoke about the MOUs that we might have signed with other departments, that over and above what is the responsibility and the mandate of the South African Police Service, where we foresee the possibilities that here we need to intervene as the South African Police Service, what steps and processes we need to undertake, but that need to be undertaken within the confines of the law. But we are not going to leave out our work. And on the child protection issues, it doesn't even leave General Nkosi here next to me out when it gets to the issues of trafficking. So it is all of us responsibility. ICVPS says who comes in, when, and what happens. So crime-wise, police will be everywhere. But in terms of other departments that needs to come in particular areas of our response. That is where we are saying here, we need to collaborate with this department here, we collaborate with that department. When it gets to the issues of football, we need DBE, we need the small business. When it comes, so it is the whole of government that we are saying in terms of responding to particular areas will require a certain or other departments to come in, but not in any way to say as the police we will just pass and see where is the department DSD. And we know in terms of numbers, we have police stations everywhere, but we don't have DSD offices everywhere. Hence, we need to have those MOUs. We need to have all those training that we are taking our frontline officers in terms of them having to undertake National Instruction 8, 3 of 2008, National Instruction 7 of 1999. So these are all the measures that we are taking. And from time to time, we also report on the VFRs. They are meant for that, but we do have certain departments that we need to interact with as early as possible for the early intervention. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair. I think I skipped one on the retention of the detectives. The committee will recall that recently we introduced the detective allowance. We are done with the implementation. There is a detective allowance. In our effort to retain the detectives, we have introduced that particular process, and we are done. We believe and hope that our detectives will be motivated. Obviously, we cannot say we can only motivate the detectives and retain them through money. There are other efforts, but we have introduced the detective allowance. I will allow General Zulu to touch quickly on the status of our colleges. Are we equipped, as well as just emphasizing our priority in terms of the ROC training that we expose our members to. After her, it will then be General Mavundla. I think we would have captured everything. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. I will be responding on the training related matters. Firstly, I will start with the one of training being equipped. I will appreciate the comments that has been provided by Honorable Member. And I think working together, we can improve what is happening on the service there. Because we are at the academies, but at the service point, you don't find us there maybe to monitor those that are just finished training. Currently, we've got people that are the new constable, they are at the workplace exposure. So as they are at the workplace exposure, they have to be also assisted on the practical part. That's why sometimes it takes long time even for them to finish the case in terms of reporting. Maybe as an organization, we might also need to improve in terms of communicating and also indicating when we have got the new constables who are still at the workplace exposure, so that we can be able to indicate to the members that are coming to our police stations that we've got these members at the stations, and then they must bear with us as we're still also trying to expose them to the workplace. And also maybe the utilization of my SAPS apps, maybe also need to communicate more on the utilization of the My SAPS app, because it's also help us, we monitor it to see what type of challenges that the members are getting when the committee members are getting when they go to the police stations, so that they can be able to identify where there are flaws and we identify them. And then after that, we'll give them the localized training, which is more on the in-service, just to improve the service delivery. So we'll continue improving on this one, and we appreciate for the member that always coming on the side in terms of what we need to to look at. And on the reserve training, there was also in terms of capacitation of reservists, the Board of Commissioners on the 26th of March 2026, they approved the training provisioning plan for 26-2027, and then 2.17 million is allocated for the training of the reservists. As soon as we get then the new recruits for the reservists, will be equipping them with the necessary skills. Already the money is allocated for this activity. In terms of the capacitation of the detectives, both the specialized detectives and the generic detectives. The CFO, through the assistance of the integrated criminal justice system funds, they provided us with 66 million to train the detectives on the issues around crime investigation and detection. Out of this money, we've got 1,200 detectives that will be attending the resolving of crime. And not only that, they need only resolving of crime, there are other basic necessary skills that they need for them to do this work. One of those they will need to attend to the issues like of the sexual offense as investigators, and then we've allocated the seats, 718 detectives that will be attending this particular training. Also, we need to focus on the issues of family violence, child protection, and sexual offenses, which the organization has allocated the budget for that, and we've got almost 119 that will be specializing on this particular training. They will be attending it. We also have more new recruits that are still on the workplace exposure. As soon as they go back to the detective environment, before they go to the resolving of crime, they need to go to the course, what you call the basic crime investigation practice. That is a program that allows them to go to the specialized, more specialized on the rock. So we've got 1,206, which will be accommodating those detectives that are currently at the police station doing workplace exposure. And also we have got a lot of other courses that we're also providing for the new recruits to make sure that they get into the work as possible. We've got 577, for example, that will be training on the financial investigation course, and we will see that most of the crimes these days they also include finances. And then you've got almost like 770 that will be trained in terms of the introduction to electronic related crimes, which when we look in terms of the cyber crime is also a problematic issues that we are getting. So these are the basic just for them to become detectives. And we also look in terms of the detective commanders, because for them to operate well, they need also operational management and leadership. So the organization will be spending 36.5 million for just training the detective commanders to make sure that they get the necessary skill that they need as a detective commanders, and also improve the services on the ground. And we also have the honorable member, Adam, spoke about the capacitation of the anti-gang units. So we will be training 150 detectives who should also be assisting with the investigation in terms of gangsterism. And also we'll also have set another, courses that a package for those that are doing the visible policing. So we've got a number of those. And we specialize also on those on the DPCI environment, especially the psychological motivated crimes. So we've got 150. And then we've got those that will be looking in terms of stock theft, because also becoming a problematic, especially when you come to the rural areas. So we try to align everything what we get here with the programs as well as the priorities of the organization, including the one that the minister provided. So with the TPP, when we present and it's being adopted by the organization, already this particular alignment, we should have already proved. That is why it's easy to give the figures and the amount per training. So, but we'll continue to improve. And then also if there is a special need, there is an accommodation to add any course, and then with the approval of the acting national commissioner. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Okay. The last one is General Mavundla on the e-dockets.
Madam Chairperson, honorable members, the minister, the deputy ministers, and the DNC colleagues. The e-docket initiative is brought about because of the old technology. We have the e-docket,
it is on the old technology. We continue to use it. The integrations that are going into ICDMS to the court for a court-ready docket, for them to know that the docket is ready for court now. Those integrations are continuing. They are used by the other sister departments in the IJS, in the integrated justice system. But we continue to stabilize what we have that we use that is reliable at the moment, whilst we are exploring the new technologies because technology evolves. I think Jonathan Tomole spoke to the new docket that we would want to have other than what we have, which we are using as a tool that is already old technology. So we will evolve into the new technology as we are consolidating ourselves with the other departments. Because we are an entry department, our investigations on new technology has to start with us in the organization. So that's what we are starting, and it is linking to our digitization of the investigation and docket management process that we are trying to deal with in the SAPS. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. From the officials, I believe we have captured most of the questions, if not all. We will then hand over back to the Chair and the Minister. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, General. Are there any questions missed?
I'm sorry, Chair, that wasn't my question. I asked about the e-docket. Remember, there was an allocation of a service provider some years ago, and that matter was in court as well to try and get back some of those monies. I wanted to know how far is that matter since we are rolling out this program again.
Okay.
Thanks.
you.
That's what I asked.
General?
Thank you.
There's no e-docket court process that had happened before.
I'll just check for you.
No e-docket. Thank you.
Honorable Ghana?
Thanks, Chair. I had asked the question in terms of the surface level vetting that's done before acting appointments are being made.
Okay. Perhaps I will also request General Nkua to touch on this. However, as I indicated, we do have an integrity and risk management unit that this is their key performance indicator. They vet and conduct lifestyle investigations on all other levels. To be direct to your question, do we have a process in place if somebody leaves today and we appoint an acting? I think that is an area of improvement, Chair, that we need to introduce to the work that this integrity unit is currently dealing with. So that is an area of improvement. However, we can give you comfort that that particular area has been prioritized. The minister has directed that the integrity unit should be fully capacitated to deal with this work. This will include all other levels, and then we then need to embed a process immediately that is not reactive, that is proactive, to say if these ones leave today and we have to appoint an acting and that acting is not vetted, what do we do? So it is an area of improvement, and we appreciate that the honorable member is bringing to us. However, myself, I do have security clearance, though I will be revetted. I have submitted to SSA. If perhaps the question was directed to the acting ADCO, I have security clearance, but I welcome the input. Chair, we will embed it on the work that our integrity unit is currently doing. And the capacitation of that unit is on top of our priority at this point in time. Thank you.
Should I add, Chair? Thank you very much. I was hoping I'm going to leave here without saying a word because all the HR related questions were answered. But thank you, Chair, and let me pass my special greetings to you, Chair, and to the honorable members, our acting minister, deputy ministers, and the acting national commissioner, and all my colleagues, and the acting head of IPID. Honorable Ghana, in terms of the lifestyle audits and the vetting, It has already been said that State Security Agency, they have been assigned to assist us with this function. And they have started, as it was already explained by the minister as well as by the acting national commissioner. Then on the vetting of senior managers, our requirement is that all senior managers from level 13 brigadiers up to the highest level of the national commissioner, they are required to have a top security clearance. So if they are appointed to act in another post, they should be having a security clearance. So there's no need for us to vet them if they were already vetted. But we know that the security vetting after every 4 or 5 years, they do expire. And the expectation is that as they expire, they're expected to apply again. So in terms of the acting, like General Dimpane has already indicated that as the acting national commissioner, she does have a valid security clearance. However, with the new instruction that our vetting must be done by State Security Agency, whether it's valid or not valid, we are all expected to submit to a State Security Agency. However, what we have been doing before, when we were appointing people to act or when we were appointing people in new positions, if they do not have a security vetting, we were doing the basic screening, security screening through our crime intelligence, as well as through our forensic services, LCRC, where they will be checking the fingerprints. We are also using the GEX to check if there are any other negativity from on the part of those applicants. So we're doing the basic security screening. So it is there, we can do it. We were using it before, but now the instruction is that we do not appoint anyone before a person is vetted by State Security Agency, but we do have, some of the systems that we can use to do that basic screening, which will mainly be done by LCRC in terms of the fingerprints, by our crime intelligence as well. So that system is there, is in place. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, General. Colleagues, it is now 1:15. Because Honorable Schickling spoke so slowly, we're 13 minutes behind the time. But I would like us to break for lunch now. And if possible, can we aim to be back at just before 2, let's say 2:00, but ideally, if we can start 10 minutes earlier, it would be even better for us to begin with IPID. And if the minister approves, I think it would be fitting to release SAPS if we are finished with that part of the discussion. We all know there's lots of work to be done, and then we can tackle the session with IPID. Thank you and enjoy your lunch. Dr. Bia and your team. If I may, hand over to Minister Kachalia to just introduce and get the IPID team going, not that they need getting going, and then we can go through the presentation before we engage. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. This is also a very important presentation because I think strengthening IPID has to be a key priority. I think that it must be considered to be part of the reset agenda because improving accountability within the police service
Minister, sorry to interrupt. Will you speak into the microphone?
is thank you, Chair, is a priority. And I think that so strengthening IPID is a priority. They have a very clear resource gap. But that resource gap in terms of their ability to clear backlogs and conduct investigations effectively is a priority that we have to focus on in the coming years. I also worry about the relationship between the IPID process and the process in SAPS. Because you often have a situation where there are parallel investigations, including disciplinary processes, and they often have different outcomes. And then the question arises as to, well, what was the right outcome? If you've got both structures dealing with the same inquiry. But I think you'll see once again in this budget in the APP that there is some reprioritization occurring. And I do think that they've made some effort to address the issues that the ministry raises as priorities. Of course, IPID is a constitutionally independent structure, and that's why. So I think we have the right kind of model, a model that protects this process, this accountability process through constitutional entrenchment. The real questions are now more about resources, capacity, and so forth. In this presentation, I don't think the committee will be satisfied that we've arrived at a model that is fully resourced, but I think I hope you'll be able to see that there is some progress. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Minister. Dr. Bia, over to you.
No, thank you, Chair, honorable members, Minister, Deputy Minister. I need to indicate that I'm joined by the Executive Committee of IPID. In line with the invitation, Chair will be dealing specifically with a strategic plan, budget, as well as annual performance plan. I just want to highlight key aspects in line with our 9 priorities. One such an aspect has been highlighted by the minister, and of course it has been spoken about in this house many a time. That is to reduce backlog. We are taking that as one of our key priorities. And we can report that we have, for the first time in the previous financial year, completed more than our intake. So our completion rate was very high within the previous 5 years. So we are doing well in that area. And of course, one key consideration based on what is happening within the country is to strategically reposition ourselves to be able to deal with complex matters of corruption and organized crime within the SAPS. And by so doing, we are establishing a forensic investigation unit, which will be housed at a national level. We also have other critical consideration, which is in line with the crisis of the country, and that is gender-based violence. These are 3 key highlights out of 9 other priorities. And on that note, Chairperson, I will hand over to the CFO who will deal with budgetary aspects, followed by Ms. Litla, the head of strategy, who will cover the issue of APP. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bila. Greetings to the chairperson, honorable members, the minister, deputy minister, and colleagues. Chair, allow me to take the committee through the budget allocation that has been made for IPID over the period of 3 years, from 26-27 financial year to 28-29. Chair, as the minister has already indicated in his opening remark, we continue to reprioritize our budget allocation by mainly reorganizing our functions so that we are able to deal with the core functions of the department. Chair, as a result, you'd noticed on slide 4, yes, thank you so much. You'll notice, Chair, that we are now operating with 3 programs, and mainly to share the budget allocation that has been made to the department. The first program, Chair, is our support service, where we housed quite a number of support service functions to support the service delivery program, which is program 2. And you will note the budget, Chair, administration. We have allocated about 32% of the overall budget of the department. And the second one, which is the service delivery program, investigation and provincial coordination, we have allocated 64% of the overall budget, Chair, because this is where the service delivery takes place. The last program, which is legal compliance, information, and stakeholder management, this is what we call an enabling program to our service delivery program. And we have allocated 4% of our overall budget. Chair, moving to economic classifications, the overall budget, Chair, of 447 million, 69% of that budget has been allocated to compensation of employees, while 29% is sitting under goods and services and 2% in machinery and equipment. Chair, I must indicate that this budget, particularly sitting in goods and services, is accommodating your contractual obligations. So it's what we call a fixed budget, mainly for IPID operations, while compensation of employees has been reprioritized mainly to increase more resources in case of capital resource, particularly covering some of the functions that have been introduced, like the one Dr. Bila has touched on forensic capacity. Moving to the next slide, Chair, this is the breakdown of program 1, makes of corporate services, departmental management, finance, internal audit, and office accommodation. This office accommodation is mainly your earmark funds for office leases in all provinces where IPID exists, particularly where there are rented offices. And members will also note that the bulk of the budget in this program is sitting at compensation of employees and mainly to accommodate their statutory functions. This is where you host your risk, your internal audit, your SPM, ICT, communication, security, and internal control. Those are statutory functions that we are expected to have. And as a result, 59% of the budget allocation in the first year of the MTF, it's sitting in compensation of employees. And 38% of the overall budget, which is 54 million, is sitting in goods and services, mainly to cover, amongst others, your regularity audit by AGSA, your operational cost, as well as your leases. And 1.6% is for ICT, which amount to 2.3 million in the first year of the MTF. The next slide talks to the business delivery or the service delivery function. Chair, Dr. Bila spoke about the forensic investigation service. We have since set aside 8.1 million, mainly to capacitate the unit. And we also have investigation management. This is where the national head of investigation and the teams are sitting to ensure that they assist in terms of the policy development. And then the last sub-program within this program is investigation services, which account to 95% of the overall budget for this program. This is where provinces are sitting with investigators. And the bulk Chair, of this budget is sitting in compensation of employees. As Chair and members will know that we are labor intensive. We are relying more on the number of investigators. So the bulk of this budget, we always make sure that we recruit more numbers as and when we identify any savings. Goods and services of this program is sitting at 68 million in the first year of the MTEF. Followed by 6.8 million of machinery and equipment, mainly to address our investigative tools of trades, amongst others, your vehicles. We continue to replace our aged vehicles as and when we identify savings within. The last program, Chair, legal compliance, information and stakeholder management. We have allocated the bulk of the budget to the sub-program 1, which is legal compliance monitoring and quality assurance. As Chair will recall that previously we made a commitment to establish the quality assurance so that they can work closely with our investigators to ensure that the quality of our docket is up to the required standard. We also have the policy research and information management, which is taking 3.5 the 4.6 million of the total allocation. And lastly, stakeholder management accounting for 3.1. The total, Chair, like in other programs, the bulk of the allocation is sitting at compensation of employees, accounting for 15.6 million. Because we will expect more numbers to assist in executing the functions that have been introduced. And the second will be your goods and services, 4.3 million, mainly for operational cost. Now, Chair, the following slide, we continue to put this across when we meet with National Treasury, as and when we meet with the committee, to say if we have to look into the IPID Act, sections that have not been fully implemented due to the capacity constraints. After being quantified, we are saying IPID require not less than 463 million over MTF, mainly to address the backlog cases that Dr. Bila spoke about earlier on, and other operational challenges that we are currently unable to fund. But we continue to reprioritize what has been allocated to us so that the service delivery cannot suffer. Now, Chair, the management, as well as a presentation to our minister. Chair, the main one will be to deal with the reduction of the backlog. The strategy has been developed and presented, and we are currently implementing that strategy. So as and when we identify savings, we rechannel such to address the backlog strategy. And each and every meeting in the department, the strategy is amongst the items that are discussed. The second one is prioritization of gender-based violence and femicide cases, as well as the corruption cases. I think Dr. Bila has spoken to corruption cases, so what we are intending to do in order to strengthen our team to deal with corruption cases. Strengthening of investigation quality assurance capacity. I've touched on it earlier on. We are trying to have this function so that our investigators can be supported. And the main aim is to make sure that by the time we make referrals, at least we know that the quality has been done on the dockets that are shared with NPA, as well as the referral to SAPS and MPS. Establishment of forensic investigations, we spoke about it, and here we are not referring to the forensic investigation within SAPS. We are referring to the skills that we don't have, like you are financial analyst during the time when we investigate corruptions, and those are the skills that we are trying to attract so that we can strengthen our investigation capacity. Strengthening, we continue, Chair, to strengthen our call center. Chair and honorable members will recall that last year, this time when we were here, we were excited to introduce a call center, mainly to make sure that the community members access the services of IPID without a struggle. And as a result, a call center was established, which is free for any community members to access IPID where there is a need. Now we continue to strengthen this call center operation by making sure that it has a permanent capacity and it operates 24 hours. That's what we are trying to do, hence strengthening. And then digital transformation, Chair, we have, and this is some of the points that the minister put emphasis on during our engagement. We have developed what we call ICT implementation plan. And in that plan, there are projects that have been prioritized. And amongst those projects, Chair, we are expected to modernize our operations. And we have also made a commitment amongst ourselves that each and every time when we identify savings, we will make sure that ICT implementation plan is prioritized because it affects the operations of IPID. We are also at the final stage of development of a case management system. As Chair and honorable members will recall that the current case management system that we are using is an outsourced, and we have been one of the risk of using the outsourced case management system. We've set aside money to develop our own. We are almost at the final stage of that process. Strengthening stakeholder relations, we continue to work with stakeholders, our key stakeholders, particularly when we engage at the different forums, and we have set aside a budget just to make sure that we work, particularly when we've got community outreach programs. Training and capacity development, Chair, when you capacitate the unit, the organization, one of the key process there is to train them so that you are able to do more with less. And as a result, we have set aside 1% of our composition of employees, which amounts to 3 million, so that we can capacitate our investigators, not only our investigators, but also other officials within the organization in an effort to also make sure that the governance is strengthened. But the bulk of this budget is for training of our investigators in various areas where they are lacking. And then lastly, Chair, we have noted all the development from various commissions that have been established, not only Madlanga Commission, but Nkabinde Commission of Inquiry, ad hoc committee from Parliament, and all the recommendations that have been done. We are establishing a task team that will be looking into that, quantify that, so that we can see how do we prioritize such implementation of recommendations within our limited allocation. Chair, thank you so much. That was the last slide. I will hand over to my colleagues.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good afternoon to you and honorable members, Minister, DM, and the colleagues. Chairperson, I'll be taking you through the next slides relating to performance information. Starting with our strategic plan, we know that we are supposed to be presenting the APP, but we thought it will also be prudent that we touch base on the strategic plan, which we presented also in the previous financial year. And this time around, there are minor changes that were introduced in this plan as an annexure to our APP. Starting with our mandate, there were no changes to our mandate, Chair. Just to remind the Chairperson and honorable members that we are anticipating the proclamation of the IPID Amendment Act sections that are relevant to the legislative mandate of IPID. And with that, with those changes, we have listed 6 significant changes to our mandate, starting with death as a result of actions of members of SAPS or MPS, whether such member was on duty or off duty. And also the investigation of discharge of an official firearm by any police officer has been repealed, and we will only investigate attempted murder. And on point number 3 is the investigation of assault common, which was also repealed, and will investigate assault GBH. And on offenses of torture, there was just an emphasis on the relevant legislation, which is the Prevention and Combating of Torture of People's Act of 2013, and also for corruption, there was also an emphasis on the relevant act, which is Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act of 2004. And lastly, Chair, is the investigation of allegations of the commission of an offense by a SAPS or MPS member committed together with any law enforcement agency or a civilian. And as far as the vision, there were also no changes. It still reads as an effective, independent investigative oversight body that promotes accountable policing. So this is our long-term goal, Chair, which we are aiming to, or continuously striving to achieve as the department, and will continue to conduct impartial investigations of identified criminal offenses and misconduct allegedly committed by members of SAPS and refer appropriate recommendations and referral to the relevant institutions. Moving on to the next slide, where we have highlighted the indicators, slide number 11. Where the font is in blue, those are the changes, the minor changes, Chair, that we have introduced. Our impact statement, an accountable and professional police service that responds to community policing needs and upholds the rule of law. So all the work that we do as IPID, ultimately, this is what we are aiming to see, Chairperson, to have an accountable and professional police service that will respond to community needs and in the process uphold the rule of law. And we still have 3 outcomes: effective and efficient department that upholds good governance. And the change that we have introduced is the indicator, the outcome indicator on vacancies filled within 8 months. Previously, the turnaround time was 6 months, and we have since revised the turnaround time, which was informed by a circular from the DPSA, Circular 28, which was issued in 2025. And there are processes that we need to observe before a position can be advertised and even filled. And in that circular, they've also indicated that all vacant positions should be filled at least within 8 months of becoming vacant, although we will strive to fill our positions as soon as possible, not necessarily waiting for the 8 months. And we are still having the reduction of legal claims against the department. The target is still at 30%. And for strengthened stakeholder relations, our target is still 60% implementation of the corporate communication strategy. And lastly, our outcome is the deterrence of police misconduct and criminality. And there is a change, Chair. Previously, our target was 40 completed investigations of GBV and F resulting in convictions. And these convictions are both criminal and departmental. Our target was initially 40, and these are our 5-year targets. And for the previous financial year, which is 25-26, we have seen a significant improvement as far as the conviction is concerned on GBV and F matters. By March, I think we had over 70 convictions, and that is a combination of both departmental and criminal convictions. And as a result, we reviewed our indicator, our target, apologies, and increased it to 120 convictions. And for corruption, the 5-year target is still at 40. And for the other case classification, the target is still 1,320 convictions. Moving on to the APP, Chair. On Program 1, we previously had 17 output indicators, and we have reduced to 16. The one indicator that was discontinued is percentage implementation of youth development strategy. This indicator, we implemented it for about 3 years, and we were attracting youth through an internship program. And we have since realized the impact of that as a result of that strategy that we've been implementing. The youth representation in the department has increased. So we are still going to continue to monitor the internship program, but at an operational level. Starting with the first indicator, Chair, I think the chairperson, apologies, the CFO had already touched on this one, on the implementation of ICT. We are still retaining our target at 80%. And the next one is the implementation of annual internal audit plan. We are still retaining the target at 90. And for the implementation of risk mitigation strategies, we have increased the target from 70 to 80%. And for vacancies, vacancy rate, we are still retaining our target at 10%. This is our tolerance level, and we aim not to have more than 10% of positions that are vacant. Youth representation, we are still retaining our target at 20%. And for representation of women at senior management service, we are still retaining our target at 50. And for persons living with disability, the target is retained at 2%. On the next slide, we have an indicator, Chair, on the expenditure of goods and services procured from women-owned enterprises, which is also one of the national priorities on transformation, on empowerment of women. And we have a 40% target, which we are retaining, and we have been achieving this target, Chair. And for the reduction of irregular expenditure and fruitless and wasteful expenditure, we are retaining the target at 60%. And also just to indicate that the balance, it's based on historic irregular and both irregular and fruitless and wasteful expenditure. This is not only related to the previous financial year, but I will give an example with irregular expenditure. We have records from dating as far back as 2007, and there are processes that we have been engaging with the relevant stakeholders in order to address those matters. Members will recall that we even reported on the progress that we are making when we were presenting our annual report. So this is not only referring to the expenditures that we incurred during the financial year 2025-2026, but we want to continuously address all the unwanted expenditures in our books. The next one is the implementation of information security audit recommendations. We started the implementation in 25-26. This was a new indicator, and we are aiming to implement to be at 80% by year 2, and in year 3, finalize all the recommendations that we received. And this audit was conducted by SSA. And with the lifestyle audits conducted, this was also a new indicator in 25-26 financial year. We started at 38% and will continue in year 2 to 42, and ultimately in year 28-29, 100%. And just to give an update that thus far, all SMS members have been subjected to this process. And in the 25-26, the focus was on our investigators. And for the period that we are planning for, which is 26-27, the focus will be on SCM and finance officials. And the next indicator on legal advice provided to the department within 30 working days, we are retaining the target at 80. Because we had to consider also the capacity within our sub-directorate. And the other indicator which they are contributing to is litigation matters referred with instructions to the state attorney within 15 working days. The target is retained at 100%. And our last 2 indicators under Program 1, which communications is responsible for, and the intention is to profile IPID and also create awareness on the services that IPID is providing. We have media programs held
per year. The target is still at 6, and also community outreach events, the target is still at 40. Moving on to the core program, our targets and our indicators. The output indicators, they are still 18. There were no changes to the indicators. The only changes are in relation to the targets. Starting with our backlog target, it has been increased from 3,500 to 4,500, an increase of 1,000, and we'll continuously review the target on an annual basis based on the available resources. And for death in police custody, we have also increased our target from 60 to 140. Death as a result of police action was also increased from 60 to 80. Discharge of an official firearm from 130 to 150 in year 1. In year 2, it's 160. And in the third year of the MTF, it's 170. And for rape by police officer, the target is 35, was 35 in 25, 26. It has also been increased to 55 across the MTF. And for rape while in police custody, the target is retained at 1. And also maybe just to indicate that we also do take into consideration the active cases and also the trend of intake that we register on an annual basis, and also the completion rate for each case category when we review our targets. And in addition, it will be the available resources. And for torture, the target is retained at 40 in year 1, then increased to 50, then 60 in the third MTF financial year. And for assault, the target was also increased from 700 to 750 in year 1, 800 in year 2, and in the last financial year of the MTF to 850. And for corruption, the target was set at 15. And this is, we also had to take into consideration, Chair, the processes that are still underway, which includes the establishment of the forensic investigation unit. And in the other financial years, that's when we can start seeing the impact of having that unit in place. But for now, we are still going to retain the target at 15, and we'll continuously review as we continue with the implementation of other interventions that will assist us to expedite the investigations of these complex cases. And for Section 28(1)H matters, we have increased our target to 140, from 30 to 140. And the significant increase is because we have been observing an influx of cases that we are registering in this category, particularly on domestic violence cases. And as a result, we had to reconsider the target that we have set for ourselves, and also the completion rate, because those cases, they fall under GBV and they are prioritized as we receive them. They have to be attended to. And the next one is on the investigations of offenses referred to in Section 33 of the IPID Act, and this is in relation to failure to report matters that falls within IPID's mandate, and we have increased the target to 10. And we have an indicator on rural-based investigative projects conducted, and the target is retained at 9. And what is expected from this indicator? We don't have a footprint in most of our rural areas. Yes, we do have provincial offices in all 9 provinces, but we don't have a footprint in some of the districts. And as a result, the provinces, they have to have a plan on how are they going to ensure that those rural areas, they also receive the service that they are expecting from IPID. So that is what the department is implementing to ensure that all the provinces, they take the service to the rural areas and they provide a report at the end of the financial year on what has been done, the type of cases that have been attended and the status of those cases. And in addition to investigations, they also conduct community outreach events. They also conduct cell inspections. So the implementation of this project is not only limited to investigation activities. The next one is on the number of recommendation reports submitted to SAPS on cell inspections conducted. Chairperson and honorable members will recall that we conduct cell inspections nationally at a provincial level. And on this indicator, once we have conducted those cell inspections, we consolidate the findings in one report and we submit the report with findings and recommendations to the Office of the National Commissioner. And our target is 2. So in a financial year, we are submitting 2 reports to the National Commissioner on the findings and the recommendations. And the other indicator is station lectures conducted. We have increased our target from 45 to 50 across the 3 MTF financial years. And also just to explain on this indicator, what we are doing at a provincial level, they identify stations and also being informed by the nature of cases that are emanating from those stations. And during those station lectures, they try to address the challenges that we are experiencing from those offices and also the nature of complaints that are emanating from those stations. And the intention is to see a reduction. And we are seeing a reduction of complaints in the 25-26 financial year when we compare it with 24-25 financial year by over 200 complaints reduction when we compare the 2 financial years. And on the next slide, which is slide 16, we refer dockets to the NPA within 30 days of being signed off, and we also refer recommendations to SAPS and MPS within 30 days of being signed off, and the target is still retained at 90%. And the last 2 indicators relates to the disciplinary outcomes from SAPS and MPS that are analyzed within 30 days. And we have increased the target from 80% to 90%. So the outcomes, the final outcomes on the disciplinary actions that were implemented, we analyze the outcome, and where the provincial management is not satisfied with the outcome, they engage further with the relevant office. And the last one is in relation to the responses that we receive from the NPA on whether to prosecute or not prosecute. Also on this one, after the analysis, they do engage further with the relevant NPA office should they not be satisfied with the decision that was taken by the NPA. And also where they have not given reasons for nullo prosecute, they do engage with the relevant office to get the reasons. And for the last program, which is legal compliance, information and stakeholder management, we have increased our output indicators from 5 to 6. The first indicator is number of analysis reports compiled on stakeholder engagements, and the target is 10. So on a monthly basis, there are meetings that we have at a provincial level with between SAPS and IPID and other stakeholders like your NPA. And this program, they analyze the discussions, the reports that will indicate what has been discussed in those meetings, and also to check if there are any recommendations on how we can improve our engagements going forward, and any challenges that are being identified, they are discussed at a national level and to improve those areas where there are gaps. And the next one is number of SAPS and MPS recommendation compliance reports that are compiled, and the target is 12 on a monthly basis on all the dockets and the recommendations that are referred to the NPA, SAPS and MPS. This program, they analyze the reports, IPID reports, and the intention is to improve the quality of our recommendations so that going forward, we don't find a situation where our recommendations are not implemented because of the gaps identified in our reports. And the next one, which is it's a new indicator that was introduced, is the number of statistical reports compiled of cases investigated. The target is 2. So we'll issue a biannual statistical report, which will cover April to September, and afterwards we'll have an annual report, which will cover the 12 months period of the financial year. And the next one is percentage of dockets that are quality assured within 30 days of receipt. This is an indicator where the new unit that we are still in progress of establishing the quality assurance, they will play a very critical role in contributing to the quality assurance process of our dockets. And we have research papers finalized. We have increased our target from 1 to 2 across the MTF period. And the last indicator on legal advice provided to investigators within 5 working days, the target is still retained at 100%. Thank you, Chairperson. That was the last slide. Thank you, Acting ED.
Thank you very much. May I then hand over to the members for any questions and comment? Honorable Schikkerling, noted. Honorable James. Dereko. There we go, Honorable Schikkerling.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much to IPID for the informative report plan. I think it's quite detailed. I would actually think that we shouldn't even have indicators in the police or targets for things like rape and torture and assault and corruption by police officers, because they should be above reproach. So we shouldn't actually even have targets, and it's very disheartening to actually read through these targets, but they are there and we have to work with them. So I will have only a few questions. IPID set a target of only 120 completed GBV and F investigations resulting in convictions over a 5-year period. How does IPID justify such a low conviction target in a country facing a GBV crisis, and what message does this send to the victims when justice is effectively capped at such a minimal level? It is difficult. I mean, as I say, we shouldn't even be having these targets. Consequence management and SAPS accountability, and this is really something that I'm quite adamant about, is IPID measures outputs like referring cases to the SAPS and the NPA, but there is a limited emphasis on actual disciplinary or consequential on criminal consequences. What mechanisms do you have in place to ensure that the SAPS actually acts on your recommendations, and how many officers have faced real consequences as a result of IPID investigations over the last year, not just referrals? Because it happens quite frequently that IPID makes recommendations, but the SAPS does not stick to these recommendations. We even know of police officers in provinces that have technically been fired by the SAPS, and the police commissioner has overturned this ruling. So how are you making sure that your recommendations are actually implemented? And then my last question, Chair, is on the quality of the investigations. Only 30% of your dockets are targeted for quality assurance within 30 days. And I know that you do have a resource challenge, but 30% is very, very low. Why is IPID effectively accepting that 70% of the case dockets might not be timeously quality checked? And how does this not undermine prosecution success and justice for the victims? Because 30% is really a very low number. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Schickling. Honourable James.
Honorable Schickling, you were reading my notes. So let me see, where can I go?
Open a case with IPID.
Yeah, so I want to ask, you've set these targets, I'm looking at page 14. Against what were these targets set? Because it doesn't make sense to me when we say percentage reduction of irregular expenditure balance per year. You know, all these outputs here, it says 60-40. It doesn't tell us the current status of these targets, if you understand what I'm saying. So I cannot tell if the target you've said in terms of number of backlog investigations that are decision ready for the year, you've got 3,500, that is your target. What is the current basket looking like? If it makes sense. So if you're saying you're going to tackle 3,500, what are we sitting with to date? So that's what I would have wanted to see when it comes to your target, so that we are actually able to establish if these targets are reasonable based on what you have, the current basket of cases. So if we can get an understanding of that as well. And then I also think we've heard ad hoc, we've got Madlanga continuing. Any of these members that's been flagged in the ad hoc and the Madlanga Commission, have you sort of done anything in the interim to flag them? I just want to ask, or are you waiting for the report to come before you act? And then secondly, but this is where Honorable Schickling took my question, how do you track your recommendations? Because in the committee meetings with SAPS, we often find that recommendations are made and it is just not adhered to by SAPS. So is IPID actually, do they have teeth? It's like a dog that's just barking that doesn't have any enforcement abilities, because sometimes we know that these members are fired or suspended or whatever, and you find that they still have access to all their benefits. That's the other thing. If you can tell us, give us just case studies of where you've actually made recommendations for members to forfeit their benefits, where it has actually happened. Then I actually want to ask, recently there was a case that was brought to my attention, sorry Chair, I just have to get to this, where a SAPS member was accused of raping and sexually assaulting a 44-year-old subordinate in May 2025, and was granted 5,000 Rand bail by the Wynberg Magistrates Court. Now today, I'm not sure how many, like I'm saying, you're not telling us what you have in your basket. What I have in this report is 116 rape cases were reported by end of March. Is that true? How many rape cases do you have? With 65 referred for prosecution and sentencing, ranging from 8 to 25 years in concluded cases. So can you give us an update on your rape charges and what the situation is like there? Thank you so much, Chair. I'm going to leave it at that.
Thank you, Honourable James. Honourable Dereko.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is on contingent liability and budget impact. The department carries a contingent liability of 108 million in respect to civil claims. So what proportion of the current budget is being directed from the core investigative function to settle the legal claims and liability? And what mitigation strategies are in place to reduce this financial pressure going forward? And secondly, Chair, is on the prosecution and MPA threshold compliance. Only 71 cases were approved for prosecution, compared to 790 cases that were declined by the NPA. So in the previous financial year, this is the current state. So what are the specific measures that you have in place with regard to quality assurance mechanism so that when to strengthen the IPD, the IPID document in preparation for compliance and with evidence threshold required by NPA? And then Chair, the third one is on leadership and stability. Every institution needs stability, and it simply means that part of stability is to ensure that you have permanent management in place. So with regard to the executive director, when are you planning to appoint the executive director? Can you please give us a time frame with regard to that? And lastly, Chair, is on the community outreach. In terms of the report, it shows that you had 40 outreach programs that you had, and you also have 9 rural investigative projects annually across the country. Looking at this program that you have conducted as the department, do you think that they are effective and sufficient enough to carry your mandate? Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Maeko. Am I saying your name correctly? I have to practice a little bit. But yes, you can go for it, and then followed by Honorable Mokoena.
Yeah, Chair, I'm being humbly requested by Honorable Mokoena.
Humbly ambushed.
Yes, to come before me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. The APP notes a previous 18% deviation in ICT implementation due to the retesting the market. How will the department ensure that the new case management system does not face similar delays beyond the December 2026 deadline? The 8.2 million allocated for forensic investigations seems minimal. Does this budget cover the acquisition of specialized tools and the hiring of experts required? Or how is the directorate planning to go about operationalizing the forensic unit? On the mandate change, with the removal of common assault and firearm discharge from IPID's mandate, what specific referral protocols have been finalized with SAPS to ensure this incident did not go unpunished? Lastly, SAPS disciplinary failure. Out of 796 negative recommendations, 141 cases resulted in a no steps taken by SAPS. What specific progress has the Joint Coordination Forum made in ensuring SAPS functions match the seriousness of IPID's findings? I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mokoena. Dr. Bila? Did you swap or did she take your questions?
No. I said I'm being humbly persuaded.
Okay, no
Yes.
problem. You can go for it. Sorry, Dr. Bila, last set of questions.
Oh, no, thank you, Chair. Chair, let's welcome the presentation by IPID and quickly go to page 9. Your 9 points start with the reduction of backlog cases. And the presentation states that you are currently developing a strategy, or the strategy is being developed and is being presented. I'm not sure presented where, but if it is available, we'll request to humbly share with the committee chair so that for the committee to at least peruse that particular strategy that you are talking about, particularly on the reduction of backlog cases. And then also on that point, given that the case intake increased by 7% last year, and the backlog clearing rate is sitting at 4,500 per year. is the goal of clearing the backlog within 2 to 4 years still statistically achievable with current staff capacity levels that you are having? And then we will move to point 4, the same page 9, the establishment of forensic investigation unit. The question I want to ask you is that what turnaround time to implement this? Because in my view, the presentation says that you lack skilled personnel in this regard. Now, you are ambitious. You are having this particular target that you want to implement, yet you are less capacitated. Hence, the question is that what will be the turnaround time for that? And we'll move to your point 6, the digital transformation, your ICT plan. You are also indicating that you are going to, I'm not sure, that's why here I need clarity seeking question. Are you currently outsourcing this service? Because you are saying that the plan is up and running. Or is the plan up and running? I need to be sure so that you also take us in confidence as a committee. If you have this plan or you are anticipating to ensure that it is implemented within the department. Now, lastly, if you are going to, let's say you have implemented it, you have it as a plan, are you going to outsource it? Yes or no? I just need that. Then the last point will be on, not the last point, Chair, sorry, and I hope I'm within the time, Chair. Training and capacity development, which is number 8. Here, what are your key critical areas that you are intending to train your staff personnel? Because it's similar as the question that I was raising in terms of capacity and the lack of skill. So now, do you have have you prioritized areas where you will be training your staff personnel? And then, Chair, the other question will be, the department is advocating for an additional 463.8 million for its expansion strategy. If this funding is not granted by the National Treasury, which specific APP targets will be sealed back or discontinued? And then, Chair, the last 2, why is the total personnel establishment projected to decrease from 438 to 408 posts over the MTF, while active workload remains high at over 14,000 cases? The last one, Chair. The BRRR specifically recommended tracking incidents involving unidentifiable police officers who are wearing balaclavas, no name tags. Does the new case management system include a specific data field to track and report this incident to Parliament? Chair, if time permitted, I will humbly request to come back. Thank you.
You and Honorable Schikkeling are in competition now. DM Boshelo, can I hand over to you to facilitate response? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and good afternoon, colleagues. You said police, we share responsibilities, don't get stuck. Let me start with the question by Honorable James. Honorable James, I agree with you that in terms of tracking the recommendations, it seems we're not there, and we need to improve in that regard. But the mandate of IPID is a very difficult one. Firstly, they have to deal with the discipline of police, but also they must not demoralize them such that they don't do their work. Because if you demoralize them, they don't do their work. Actually, they do. They tell you, IPID will do it. So crime goes up because they're trying to save their skills. So there must be that balance between, taking action or disciplinary action, but also building in terms of you just don't destroy, you build gradually. So the cases now, as I'm talking to you, are increasing. Yesterday, one police from Sunnyside committed suicide. And there are many who are committing suicide. And others now are just getting out of the system with the relevant experience and what. And when you ask them, when you do your exit interview, they will tell you that IPID, no, we can't work with IPID, So we must be able to, I'm saying, to balance between taking action for police who have not doing their work, but also rehabilitate in the process. And because it demoralizes them, actually, they don't want it at all because it demoralizes them. But we need it because police also need somebody to be able to deal with them. So the other issue that is coming on is the metropolis. You can see the problem at Madlanga, where now the metropolis has a lot of cases, and they're police. So it means they must come to IPID. I'm not sure whether they are ready, and because they don't even have a budget, and we need to be able to take action in terms of the recommendations. So some of these things we'll just have to look at them, and as time goes on, maybe the adjustment or what the committee will expect you to assist us to be able to do that. The other issue is in terms of the permanent people in IPID. The other problem, it's not a problem, they are changing their organizational structure. It didn't accommodate other units, so they're trying to accommodate it. But also, their head executive director must be at the DG level so that he have that power, which we say that they don't have that power. So as soon as they're done with the organizational structure, the minister will sign it, and then they'll get the right person to be able to do that. As of now, I don't think you'll be able to attract people who want to come there. And the other one is in terms of corruption and organized crime. There's corruption in the police also, organized crime in the police also. So while other sections are dealing with them, IPID should also come in. At what time or point do they come in? I think that's what we just need to sort it out. In terms of the ICT, I think overall, as we said, we had discussion with China. I remember I went to China, and then we're signing the memorandum to include buying the equipment there. I'm saying this because if you go to Manly, there is one shop there, Smolanyana shop. They sell all the equipment, technology equipment in terms of security, and the owner is a Pakistan. So I'm just asking myself, do you get insight for your security and then just take from the shelf? Or you want something that is really, nobody can hack it, it can be maintained and whatever. So I think we're looking at government to government, and they will be able to be accommodated in that. And secondly, would want to also train our youth in terms of this ICI. They need upgrading, they need maintenance, they need everything. If we train our youth, we don't have to take them outside. They can be able to do that. And it will be part of also creating some job. It will include the new case management. I was saying in terms of e-docketing, the thinking behind e-docketing was that you have your docket on the system, And if you want to know how far is your case, you have your password, you go there and check how far is it. But as for now, it's like scanning, and keeping them safe, which doesn't help in anything. So we'll also want to also include this new case management so that it give you also like a bank. I mean, every time you go there and you have 10 rand, you still go again, you think you have, at least you have control over what your money is and be able to do that. In terms of the numbers of police, as I said, is a problem. And many are leaving. For sure, you know now that the number of police that we have now are less than what we had in 2010. And the population have shot up to about 63 now in terms of the mid-year. So you need your feet, but also the technology to be able to do that. So as we train 5,500 per year is the maximum that our colleges can take, 4,500 resign. So it's like a merry-go-round, but we need to somehow arrest it, and we'll try to see how best we make SAPS to an IPID to be employer of choice, where people with relevant skills would want to come and work with us. Lastly, the issue of the detectives, I think members, sometime we must have time and just discuss this issue, because you have IPID, which is supposed to investigate, have its own detectives. You have IDEC, which also is expected to have its detective and arrest. And then you have DPCI, which also must have its detectives and everything. You have SAPS, which must have its own detectives, General Tintumule, and then you have SIU also with their detectives. So as a result, the detectives, they cannibalize, this organization cannibalize around each other. So they will give this ones like IDEC will give a little bit of salary and some benefit. Then they move from SAPS, they go there. Then IP take a little bit, they move there and whatever, because they know it's small kind of thing. So until we found ourselves as the integrated justice system, including the IDEC and everybody, to say, how do we preserve this kind of thing, resource that we don't have, but especially detectives who are trained and who can be able to bring a case to in front of the court and win. We are still going to have this problem. And Chair, with your permission, can I give to Dr. Bila to deal with others? Thank you.
Thank you, DM, and thanks to yourself, Chair. I will start with the question from Honorable Shekling in terms of impact in relation to our work. Chair, our work speaks volume in terms of numbers. We be talking criminal conviction. In 3 years, we moved from 43 criminal conviction to 76, and now we are sustaining above 70. So we have moved, and that is our priority. I'm talking about criminal part. And of course, such numbers could be patronizing in that way on departmental. So our work speak for itself. There was a question around recommendations. Then the DM has covered it. There is a critical question around quality assurance. Yes, indeed, we need to improve our quality assurance just to improve our work. But I just have to indicate upfront that our investigation are either prosecutorial driven or guided. So when we have a case, we work side by side with NPA, we are guided at that level. And this quality assurance is to augment our quality to another level. But in anyhow, our investigators are qualified, they can do the work independently, but we thought we needed to increase in terms of value creation so that there is no room for nulla prosequi, which is not necessary. We have all safeguards in that regard. And we don't arrest and investigate. We investigate fully, then we arrest. Once we knock on the door, just be sure that we are done. And we have a prima facie a case because it will have been guided by. And you might have seen in the previous, in the current month, that we have been arresting left, right, and center. And that is to improve professionalism within the police. Our work is in tandem with the police just to improve that area. Then Honorable James asked around irregular expenditure, which the CFO will cover. And there was a question, a specific question as to what is the current backlog in terms of actual number. Many Tape will talk to that, but I just want to frame the very same question by indicating that there is measurable impact in terms of backlog reduction. We have completed more than we have received in the previous financial year. And that is a clear indication of our intention. We are very agile and committed to eradicating such. Our backlog is just above, but we'll give an example, below 14,000. And if you look into how we're spreading off, moving from 3,500 to 4,500, that is an appetite indication that we want to get rid of backlog, and we will do so within reasonable time. The question coming from Honorable James regarding Madlanga matters. Yes, we are dealing with recommendations from Madlanga, and we are still awaiting full report. And as and when we are issued with such a report, we'll deal with those matters and prioritize them. But one also need to acknowledge that there is also a task team within SAPS, which of course is working well. So we avoid by all means to duplicate exercise, and we work for one goal. There was a question from Honorable Dirico, the issue of legal claim. Mr. Ramafuku will deal with that, and also the issue of Nuna Prosecutor in the name, decline to prosecute Mr. Ramafuku. Deal with that. The DM has dealt with the issue of leadership and stability within IP. The issue of community outreach and CMA in terms of outsourcing and insourcing and its value. Then there is a question around the budgetary context around forensic investigation unit, the 8.2, whether it represents other tools of trade. I'll request you to deal with that. I think I will also request Mr. Pelakai to deal with training and capability development. To what other training are we offering to capacitate ourselves? Then the BRRR, Mr. Ramafu, I was not clear on how the question was framed, but if you might have maybe deal with that, Mr. Ramapu. Yeah. So, Chair, I'm handing over to the team. Thank you.
Okay. No, thanks, Dr. Bila and Honorable Chair and members. There are two questions that have been requested to address. One is on the irregular expenditure. Honorable James requesting the department to quantify instead of putting percentage, but put a specific amount that we are intending to reduce, and we can provide the amount in writing so that the committee knows the exact amount that we are planning to reduce in the period under review. And then the second one is on the 8.1 million allocated to forensic investigation. As I've indicated earlier on, I've said this is not the forensic investigation that is taking place in SAPS or laboratory services that are provided by SAPS. This is just to capacitate our investigation team with the skills that we currently don't have, like your financial analyst, your data analyst, as and when we handle certain matters that are complex, we are unable to conclude those matters. So this 8.1 has been set aside to recruit such a capacity. We have not yet recruited. The DM earlier on touched on the process of the structure. Those positions that we are referring to, they are in the structure that has been reviewed. Once that process has been concluded, we will be able to recruit those positions so that they can strengthen our investigations. And then lastly, to touch also on the tools of trade. Within the Program 2 budget, we have set aside 6.8 million under machinery and equipment. This money will be used for tools of trade to support, amongst others, the new functions that we are planning to establish, which is forensic investigation services. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honorable Cameron, esteemed members of the committee, DM present, Acting Executive Director of IPID, colleagues from SAPS and IPID. I will attempt to respond to the question that has gained the prominence today with respect to the recommendations. I think it was asked by 3 members of the committee, and this signifies the importance of dealing with this in a manner that will remove all the doubts. Let me indicate, the Chairperson, that we are grateful to the Parliament of the Republic of South Africa, having noted the challenges that we had as IPID with respect to the implementation of our recommendations to SAPS and Metropolis, that you intervened by amending our legislation, the Primary or Principal Act, and ensure that Section 18 of the IPID Amendment Act 15 of 2024 deals with this particular issue. The amendment of Section 30 has brought up the mechanisms of dealing with non-implementation of the recommendations by holding management accountable. Unfortunately, at this stage, we are depending on the finalization of the regulations in order to have this particular provision of the Amendment Act implemented. But upon finalization of the regulations, there will be a mechanism to ensure that there is enforcement and proper accountability in terms of the implementation of IPID recommendations. So the days are numbered where IPID recommendations would be taken for granted or not be fully implemented. And coupled with that is one of nolle prosecure, the high volume of matters that are declined for prosecution. I think there are two or more variables involved in this particular issue. Firstly, IPID has taken a stance that says we cannot be a player and referee at the same time. So all our matters, criminal matters, are referred to NPA for decision, even if we are aware that this matter would not see the light of the day. We are avoiding a situation where we are investigating and also making decisions as to whether to prosecute or not. We allow NPA to exercise its mandate accordingly. So some of the matters, when referred to NPA, are already dead. We already know that there won't be prosecution. These matters need to be distinguished from those that are undetected or are closed under general closure. So when we have concluded our investigations, we submit an NPA make determination. I don't think NPA is deliberately declining to prosecute where there is sufficient evidence to sustain a case. In the same vein as would not allow matters that we believe prosecution can be successful and we receive a decline for prosecution. In such instances, IPID escalates the matter and we engage the next level of authority in decision-making within the NPA. Thank you.
Afternoon, Chairperson, DM, and all protocol observed. Chairperson, with regard to the case management system that is currently under development, I want to point out that the reason why IPID took a stance to develop its own system is that the current system, as the CFO had indicated, it's owned by the service provider. And as and when the service provider decides otherwise, the service provider would then switch off the system, and that is a risk on its own. And the other issue is that when we need to enhance the system, even with the internal capacity that we have, we cannot do so because the system does not belong to IPID. So that then creates a serious challenge. So IPID then consulted with National Treasury that then made funds available for the development of the new system. Now the data centric, which is the service provider, is currently developing the system. We are at 65% of development, and the processes that are still yet to unfold are the testing, the data migration. We have the data in this current system that we are using, the one that we procured from Flowcentric. So it still needs to be migrated. And over and above, we were looking at making sure that there is integration. Currently, the system that we are having is not integrated with other systems within the JCPS cluster. And so it's very limiting that even when we need certain things, we ought to drive to areas. And yet, if we had access to those systems, I will give an example of the ICDMS, which is an integrated case docket management system, which is being used by other departments, your SAPS, your DPCI, and the courts. So you are able in that system to source the technical reports. You do not have to drive a distance to the forensic science lab. Of course, then if you have that system, then you are able to source that information from the traffic department. You are able to also check information on people that are wanted. You are able to know even the records of those that might have criminal convictions or pending matters. So that's the rationale why we took the stance to have an independent system. And with regard to the outreach are mainly one to give access to the communities. We also, just to give context, that we have the access and awareness rural strategy. That strategy, it's earmarked to reach out to the people in the villages, the people in the homestead, the people in our people in the farms, the farming community. So we want to reach out to the farming community through the strategy, and also the small holdings. So that was the idea of having this outreaches, and also to share information through the media platforms. And the fact that we also have the call center, we are able to get the opportunity to market the call center when we do this outreaches, and also to build the partnership. So it gives us that advantage insofar as partnership is concerned. And regarding the training interventions that we have planned, there are key ones that we have identified, such as corruption and procurement corruption in particular. We have taken into cognizance that there were issues that were raised around corruption, particularly in light of the committees. So we have then identified corruption as the key training intervention that we should consider. And the other one is the cybercrime. Why cybercrime? We look into the world that we are living in is mainly digital, and we have also observed that many of our cases now, there has to be an element of digital influence in one way or the other. We happen to link the suspects, whether it's on rape matters, whether it's on murder cases, whether it's on corruption, whether it's on torture, that we are able to use this coordinates and so on. And also for our members, our investigators to understand the laws, your POCA, your PRECA, as to where are they relevant, including the Cybercrime Act, the implications of the Cybercrime Act as well. So those are the key issues that we thought we have to flag them. And also the fraud as well, because it's one of the burning platforms. And we also prioritized the sexual offenses course to just address the gaps within the environment of, if you look at our statistical data on rape cases, that spike tells you that we need to be at a certain level of dealing with rape cases. And that is the reason why we would then want to consider this. And these are the courses that have been approved in terms of the training plan. So we will be able to roll them out to make sure that there is some kind of an improvement. The advantage is that we have got proof that in terms of sexual offenses, particular rape cases, can I have that? I just want to share something that just in the previous financial year in the Eastern Cape, we had 20 years imprisonment for a rape case. And then in GP, we had 8 years imprisonment. And we also had 20 years imprisonment in KZN. And in Limpopo, we had 10 years imprisonment. And Northern Cape, we had 3 10 years, 2 10 years, and 1 15 years. And then we had one in the Western Cape, which is 25 years. And then we have another one, 10 years. So this convictions, or rather the sentences, is a clear demonstration that we do have to accept that we have got a problem of this type of matters within the law enforcement agencies. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Kfelakai. I think, Chair, we have dealt with almost all the questions. We might have missed one, which we can deal with it reminded. But all in all, as Mr. Kfelakai was indicating, we are very impactful in our work in terms of criminal convictions, and not just assault common. We're talking rape, we're talking murder. So that's where we are. And when you look into our on the court roll matters, these are cases which are going to court, wherein we have arrested and police officers appearing. We are sitting just below 1,000. We're talking about all categories. We are not proud of this like the DM is saying, but we have got work to do. We don't become too excited, but we have got work to do, and we have to do our work just to clean the police so that it function effectively. The principal, Chair, is that rather you have one police officer who is clean rather than to have 10 dirty police officers. So the police will function very effectively once it is clean. And we are very agile, we are committed, and we will ensure by all means that we clean the police. Thank you.
DM?
Thank you very much, Chair. Just to close up, I know that most of us don't know whether to call yourself IPID, 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 I've all the names. But like I'm saying, this is a catch-22 situation, what they're doing, because under normal circumstances, the target must be 0, or the baseline must be 0. No policeman must be found to murder, rape, or what, because it's their responsibility to protect the citizens from those kind of things. Under normal circumstances, you should not be having work, actually. It should be 0. But unfortunately, we are living in a real world where these are happening. And I'm happy that, as Dr. Bila have said, they're taking action without fear or favor. But I know that they are under threat and under security threat also. Remember, they're dealing with members who have firearms, who have this and all those kind of things. And as they're dealing with their case, in one or the other, they also face security threats, and which we really have to look at them and see how we assist them. Otherwise, we'll also start losing them, and they have knowledge of these cases and everything. Once they taken out, you know, the information is gone, and you can see the criminals now are very brazen. They shoot you just in front of the court or whatever. So we need to be able to do that. And the systems, as I said, we'll just talk with them. You can't get a security system like you're tendering for catering. You know, you need to have something that nobody can hack, or if somebody have to hack it, it must be an effort. And the reason why you see the owner or the owner of your system putting down is because he's got the authority and he's got your information and he can sell that information to somebody else. So that is the danger of just giving a citizen your system. That's why it must be controlled. SAPS now, as I'm talking to you, for sure you've seen somebody selling them a software, 500 million, a software. Not hardware, not a system with everything and what, for 500 million. And now as we take them to court, that's why we're talking about integrated justice system. Court saying we must pay. And we say, what software can you really, honestly, you can't buy software with 500 million. So the court sometimes also, it's a problem, but I think if the service provider is not necessarily coming on board, switching on and off, just switch that person off before we incur more problems and see what we can do. The other one, I think we need to work government to government, as we deal with the security issues, so that if we deal with the government to government, you've got common interest, you've got and all other things. Like in the police, you have Interpol, where all the countries are able to flag and whatever. So the systems always talk to each other. The last one is the outreach. I agree that most people don't. That's what I'm saying. Either you are IPID, you are IPAD, you are IPID, people don't know you and what you are doing. So as we go on, I think we might want to do those. We went to Northern Cape the other day, and then with IPID, and then we had a very successful outreach program. What I like about their style, also the police, they bring all the investigators and everybody. So when somebody come and said, I had the problem, the police did, they direct that person to the right person to be able to take the information there. So something is working here and we need to support it, Chair. And I think I know our portfolio want us to perform very well. They'll be able to support us in some of these things. Unfortunately, the PES, you know about the PES, but we don't want to come here and complain about the PES. We want to come here and see how best can we be able to do our mandate. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, DM. Colleagues, committee members, are there any further questions you would like to ask? Okay. I'm going to start with the Honorable Maiko, then the Honorable Dereko, and then Honorable Schikkeling. Honorable Maiko, you can go ahead.
No. Thank you, Chair. Let's welcome the response from the IPID, IPID. Yeah. No, Chair. On page 13, I just want to make a proposal stroke recommendation on the first column on the percentage expenditure of goods and service procured from women-owned enterprise. When you look at page 12, the last column on the 2% of the 2% of the people living with disability representation, I think what my proposal will be, it speaks to that exactly. That let's propose the services that must be as well procured from people live with disability. The Department of Employment and Labor has what you call the supported employment enterprise, which is SAE. Now, my proposal, DM, will be if you can benchmark with the department. You benchmark with the department so that you procured the goods that are produced by people with disabilities. Other provinces, provincial government are doing that. I know the Western Cape, KZN, and Gauteng in the main, they are doing the procurement of the goods that are produced by people living with disability. This will then boost the representation in as far as 2% is concerned, including the employment opportunities that are created from the very same enterprises that are owned by these people. So I'm just proposing that so that you add that. The second is on the percentage of lifestyle audit. Here, when the presenter was making the presentation, spoke about the 2025-26, 38% is for investigators, and then the 42% was for SMA, senior management, and so forth. So now the 78 and 100% is for what? Just to get that particular point. Maybe I missed it. And then the last two, Chair, in terms of the social contract, I want to know, can we get from yourselves that we get quarterly written updates, particularly on the backlog reduction, given its public trust issue? And then on the same note, also, I will propose that the APP must also be boosted and empowered if you will be able to table the provincial breakdown in terms of backlog cases by category, so that we are clear as to what is it that we are dealing with. I think, Chair, I will pause and thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Dereko.
Thank you, Chair. I've noted clarity provided by Ntate with regard to the cases that have been declined by NPA. And it then goes back to what we were talking about earlier, intergovernmental relations, because I believe that if you spend time in investigating something and you realize that this thing will not go further, then I don't understand what could be the reason for you to send it to the next entity, because when you send it to the next entity, it then means that you are going to give that entity a job that is not going to bear any positive result, which then goes to the resources that are not being used accordingly, because you know that it's not going to go anywhere. So it's going to take time, women resource, and at some stage, even they are going to utilize funds for something that is not going to find expression. So can't you find maybe something like your monitoring and evaluation tool, whereby when you submit that particular case to NPA, they then have their checklist where they check if this thing is going to pass or not, so that it's end at an early stage instead of taking it to them, and it's going to take long time, and after that it then becomes declined. So mine is just to say maybe we need to find a way of simplifying the process in order to save time and resources, so that we are all in a better space, because we have limited resources, we have limited budget that we can't afford to utilize and without any positive outcomes. That was just my input on that. Thank you.
Honourable Schikkerling.
Thank you, Chair. I'll speak with my fast voice. I think we must acknowledge what Dr. Bila and the IPID team have done. And I think we must thank you for all your hard work, because I think 2 years ago, we were in a much worse situation than what we are now. So we have to acknowledge it and thank you for it. I remember last year, I think about this time, we also had a backlog of 14,000, which shows me that your backlog isn't growing. And I think the cases that actually go that are submitted to the NPA for prosecution and are actually prosecuted is increased tremendously. There's a quite big difference. So thank you for that. I think Honorable Maeko actually stole some of my words now. I would like to ask that in the quarterly feedback that you give us regarding the backlog, if you can just add in the cases that have been finalized and submitted to the NPA for actual prosecution, just to say these will not be prosecuted and these will be prosecuted, just so that we can see how much percentage actually go for prosecution and how many are not. That's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Schikkerling. DM?
Thank you very much, Chair. I think most of the questions, it was not questioned, it was like recommendations of what we want to do. Honorable Michael, we have heard you about the disability. Actually, there's a factory somewhere in Johannesburg where the disabled people do uniforms for hospitals, for others. And I was asking, SAPS to say, who's doing our uniform? That's where we can start from and then grow from there. In terms of the furnitures, also we can be able to do that. So we take your suggestion with 2 hands. And I think we must not do it just to comply with the employment, the 2% or what, because people who are disabled themselves, they'll tell you that they are not disabled, they are differently abled. So they're able to do something else, not necessarily that, they are totally not. So they're differently abled. So we take the advice with all what that will do. The second one, in terms of the social contract, there is, I think they'll be able to tell you, as you are aware, I think it's a new concept in South Africa. We have not yet found it clear, but we have started somewhere. As you know, we have signed a memorandum of agreement with almost all the metros in our country to say, let's be together and face the enemy together. So the Metro Police, everything, and what IPID also surely SIRA, for guns and all those kind of things. So I think, yes, we also take they will be able to do that. In terms of the province, there are some provinces who don't have these offices, like the Northern Cape ones and others. So we're afraid to be overambitious, like you said, and said we will do in all the other provinces, while we still have the smaller nyana things that we still have to, but it's just in our mind. It's like the forensic labs. We need at least one in all the provinces. So we don't have one in Free State, Limpopo, Gauteng, and Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and Northwest. So if we can have that one, then we'll have the whole print. Then we can come back again and do other things. In the Northern Cape, I think they don't have, so we take it, your advice with that. The other one, I think they will do. Honorable Director, in terms of the intergovernmental interaction, actually, I'm a champion of DDM of Nkangala, together with Honorable Mahlobo. So quarterly today, actually it's tomorrow right now, we have a meeting where we sit down and work together. Like I'm saying, even the memorandum, how do we reduce crime without fighting each other or over theft? So what, it works well and wonderfully here in Cape Town, actually. They have a technology system where the metro, police, and what work together from the same port. So in terms of that intergovernmental, until we are able to deal with this DDM properly, it will assist. But the catch is, when you talk about intergovernmental and DDM, you are saying, bring your budget together and then work from common. But then the accounting, the PFMA is not changed to be able to deal with that. So accounting officers are afraid to give their budget to somebody that they will be able to account. And now this, what we call Public Audit Act, where you can found guilty and be told to pay. So I think until we have discussion with the Auditor General and sort out this issue. Then the DDM and intergovernmental one, including the PFMA, will be able to do that. And also we have the JCPS cluster, where there's justice, education, home affairs, all the security, SSA and everything. We're also working together to try to deal with some of the issues. Yes, we still have people who have reservations about it because of this issue of accounting. But I think in terms of the outcome and the overall, we find each other and we try to work with each other. So thanks for also for the advice. We'll see how best do we do that. If you can also assist us in terms of how you think we can best achieve that. Thank you very much, Chair.
Colleagues, I just want to double check if all the questions been answered. I think this is a record for us in terms of time finishing. It was very efficient today. So I think we've come to the end of today's discussion. There's nothing major additionally from my side. We will obviously go through all of the relevant work and just study once again what was discussed today. We really want to make sure from our side with regards to IPID that we do what we can in terms of capacitation. I've got no doubt that over the years, IPID has slowly but surely been starved of much needed resources. And it's critical for, if we want to clean up, we need a strong IPID. So it's literally that simple. Thank you for everyone's patience today. DM to you, the Minister and other DM in their absence, Brigadier Mitchell, your role with the rest of the SAPS team as well, and then Dr. Bila to you and the team. We've got quite a few similar sessions in the coming weeks that we will be engaging in, and we appreciate you spending the day with us today. And to the members that made their way here today, thank you to you as well. Honorable James, I haven't heard you so quiet in a while. Oh, is that why? I hope you feel better soon. So with that, I will. Oh, I am. It was a compliment. I'm going to close the meeting with that. Thank you very much for everyone's time today. Thank you.